What up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to episode number 48 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening. In this episode, I speak about my recent East Coast road trip from New York to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Orlando, Florida, Savannah, Georgia, Virginia. I don't know what the city we were in there, because we just pretty much slept and ate there, and then back to New York. I also speak about a few stand-up comedy specials that I recently saw for the first time, even though they're kind of old. Jim Gaffigan's Beyond the Pale and Mr. Universe, which were hilarious, and Todd Barry's Crowd Work, which is pretty dope. I share my thoughts on the whole male-female transgender bathroom debate. And also, I recently rewatched the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, which is based on the novel by Carl Sagan, and I wrap up the show with my thoughts on that. So, if you're interested in any of that stuff, stick around. If not, thanks for stopping by. Alright, so since this episode is packed with a bunch of shit, I'm going to jump right into it. So, like I told you guys in the previous episode, I was going on a road trip. I came back, and I had a really good time. We had a really good time with my fiance and brother and sister-in-law, and it was pretty dope. So let me start off with the first stop, which is Philly. So we go to Philly. We're doing the whole touristy thing in Philly. So we hit up a couple notable spots, and the first thing we did was stopped at a diner, had some breakfast because we left at 5 a.m. from New York, and stopped at this local, very local diner that we found in the area. That it's like one of those type of places where everybody knows each other. You see the construction workers and truck drivers that seem to go there every day to get their breakfast before starting work and starting their shifts and shit like that. And it was nice. It was alright. The food was okay, and I don't remember the name of the place, but it was decent. It wasn't great. It was like a little dive diner type of place. So then from there, we went to we took the Independence Hall tour, which is pretty cool, and the Liberty Bell we went to see, and that's all pretty much in the same area. It's across the street from each other. So you go to Independence Hall, and you go to this indoor museum looking place, and they give you free tickets. And they pretty much give the tickets and organize the tour in half-hour increments, based on the amount of people that are there. So that's how they, make sure it's not past capacity or whatever. And we pretty much got our tickets, did the tour, which was really cool. This guy works for the Parks Department, if I'm not mistaken. First, you sit in a room where within Independence Hall, they sit everybody down, and he gives a little probably a 5 to 10 minute introduction to Independence Hall and the history of Philadelphia, and it's where the Declaration of Independence was signed, and where the would-be American government was conspiring to declare the independence from the British, and gave us the pretty much that little synopsis, and then told us we were going to walk over across the way to where the courtroom was, and also where in the actual room where all the deliberation from the 13 colonies was taking place, and where the actual declaration was signed, which is pretty cool. And he sits you through everything. Is set up close to, I guess, in a historically accurate way. So all the positioning of all the tables of the 13 representatives, like Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, of the 13 colonies, were how they initially were back then, supposedly. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty interesting. He did a really great job of describing things in an interesting way, and kind of like placing you in that time period and reminding you that it was a very hush-hush type of thing that was going on, because if word got out, they'd be like tried for treason type of thing. And to picture, days on end being in that room, deliberating on certain things, like each state should have 2 state senators, and then Congress should be made up of representatives from each state, but based on population of the state, and all that type of give and take and politics that was going on between the 13 colonies at the time, before they were actually formed, and how it took days and days of deliberation between them, and how all the windows would be closed because they didn't want anybody overhearing stuff, and then reminding everyone that there was no electricity or air conditioning in that time, and how sweaty and smelly the place must have been, and all the like coats and blazers, and like all the garments that people wore back then, and it kind of like really places you there. I find that type of shit interesting, so I thought that was pretty cool to be in that actual room where our country formed. Then from there, we bounced. The whole thing was probably like less than half an hour, that little tour. So definitely, I recommend it if anybody's like in the area to do something like that. Then we shot over across the street to the Liberty Bell, which is in another like little museum type area, and it's on the ground floor level, and it's pretty much, there's like a long walkway with I don't know, museum type stuff, like paintings and portraits and stuff like that lining the walls, and not memorabilia is not the right word, but Liberty Bell related content, on the walls and stuff. Then you get to the end of that walkway, and the Liberty Bell is there, and people are just, it's roped off. You could get pretty close to it, and people are just there. You could, actually like reach over and touch it if you wanted to. But it's roped off, and people are just like standing around it and taking pictures and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. It takes just a couple minutes to do. You're there, might as well. And if you don't want to for whatever reason, you could, because it's just a bell with a crack in it. And probably, obviously, not speaking to the historicalness of it, but if that's not your thing, you could see it like the place is glass like all around, so you could actually see it from the outside if you didn't want to like go in and go through the metal detectors and shit like that. Then from there, we went to the Rocky Steps. The steps from the movie Rocky, and we did what everybody else, the fucking hundreds of people that were there, were doing, was running up the stairs, putting up your arms like Rocky did in the movie, and you just see everybody there pretty much doing the exact same thing. It's funny. I did it also, of course, and then I was expecting to see the Rocky statue like at the top of the steps, because the stairs, for those of you that don't know, it's a museum, and when I got up there, I was expecting to see the fucking Rocky statue, but it wasn't there. And then someone said that it was fake and it doesn't exist, and somebody else said that they take it down and they put it back sometimes, and Like, I didn't know. I thought it was just fucking there. And then, so that was kind of disappointing. But then we were leaving. Then we saw that the actual Rocky statue is there, but it's not like at the top of the steps. It's like when you get to the bottom of the steps, it's like to the left, and there was like a line formed there, and we would have completely missed it. But my brother-in-law Raul saw it, and we went over there and we all took pictures with it, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, and it was a good time. There was like a Rocky lookalike guy there taking pictures of people and shit. And, there's people there offering to take pictures of you, if you're like just there with like as a couple and you don't have anybody to take a picture of both you together. And, they want you to give them a couple dollars and stuff like that, which is cool. And, if you go alone and shit, and you need that, then you don't have to worry about something like that or taking pictures like one by one or whatever. What else? Then from there, we're in Philly, so obviously we're gonna get Philly cheesesteaks, right? And I hit up my boy Pablo and told him where I should get. He travels a lot, so I told him which Philly cheesesteak place should I go to, Pat's or Gino's. And he told me neither. He told me those places were too touristy, and go to a local spot that is known to make them good. And I'll say this: if you want a good, like, banging Philly cheesesteak sandwich, I would recommend to take Pablo's advice and do something like that. But if you want the touristy experience, which that's what we're pretty much doing there, and you don't want your emphasis isn't in getting the tastiest sandwich or Philly cheesesteak, then go to Pat's or Gino's. We went to Gino's. It's where I initially wanted to go to, and again, just for the whole touristy experience type of thing. And the sandwich, it wasn't that good, to be honest. It wasn't a bad sandwich. But it wasn't like, oh my god, this is the most delicious Philly cheesesteak sandwich I've ever had. It wasn't by far. But it was good, whatever. And we ate it. So it was slightly disappointing, but whatever. It wasn't, again, we weren't there just for the taste of the sandwich. It was just to see Gino's and Pat's, two staples of Philly directly across the street from each other. If you guys don't know, it's two big Philly cheesesteak hoagie making places, sandwich shops which are famous in Philly and always have lines and stuff like that. And wanted to go to see them, and we did. Then next door to it, there's this place called Café Crema, both of which, by the way, I knew about Gino's and Pat's, but Café Crema I learned of, or I heard of for the first time, watching, what was it, one of those YouTube shows that I mentioned to you guys before. It's not Fuck That's Delicious. It's Dana White's Looking for a Fight, the UFC Dana White web series. And they went there. They went to either Pat's or Gino's, I forget which one. And then next door they went to Café Crema. So I definitely wanted to go there because it's a place that specializes in coffee and cannolis. And they have mad different types of cannolis. So I figured I had a cheesesteak, then went there for dessert and coffee before we hit the road again. And that's exactly what we did. Cannolis were off the hook. They have like pistachio cannolis, peanut butter cannolis, and just a bunch of like different flavors, and it was really good. Definitely recommend going there. I liked it. I enjoyed that a lot. And then what else? Let me look at my notes here Rocky Steps, Statue, Pats and Geno's, Cafe Crema. Boom, that's it. So that wrapped us up in Philly. We hit the road, and we drove all the way through to Virginia before we stopped for dinner. And we found a Mexican restaurant. We decided to go there. I don't know why. Mexican food in Virginia kind of doesn't go, but that's where we went. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't like, oh, this is disgusting, I don't want to eat this. But it wasn't good Mexican food. But whatever, we stopped there. The people were like super nice. I think they were like happy to see other Hispanic people. And being a Mexican restaurant in the middle of Virginia. And yeah, that was it. That was pretty much our stop in Virginia. We wanted, on the way back, we stopped there again and we stayed there for the night, but I'll get to that later. Then from there, after dinner, we just shot straight down to South Carolina. In South Carolina, we were staying in Myrtle Beach, and it's pretty fucking far from the I-95 to actually get to Myrtle Beach. Like, after we got off the 95, we felt like fucking like 2 hours just of like side streets and side routes and highways and shit like that, in the dark with no light and stuff, to get to where we were going to. But when we got there, we were very, very happy and stayed there for a couple days and really enjoyed it. It was actually the highlight of the trip. And what it was funny because, it was dark. We were driving for a while, and the GPS is like pulling me into like what looks like to me like this residential type of like organization, like type of thing, right? And the GPS keeps telling me to go through there, and then my girl gets excited. She's like, "Oh my god, is it here?" Because it looks like really nice. And I was like, "No, don't get your hopes up," because I don't want to wind up at some fucking shitbox place, and then she had her hopes up with that. But it actually wound up being, this was the place. So it was just like a really big property, and what we rented was a cottage, which to me, from what I booked and what I saw in photos and stuff like that, I pictured it. I always assume that the pictures and stuff like that are nicer than what you're actually going to wind up with. So I pictured in my mind, a 2-bedroom little bungalow type of thing, with a living room / kitchen, and that's it. And we drove in and checked in. At this point, it's like, I think like 1 or 2 in the morning or something like that, or midnight or 1 in the morning. I don't know. It's late at night. So we check in, and it gives us the keys to the place and tells us like where to drive to find it. And because it's like a hotel, like regular, skyscraper type hotel, but on the hotel property, surrounding it are all these cottages, these like little houses, and you can either stay in the cottages or stay in the hotel, but all of it is part of the hotel. And we pull up to our place, and it wound up being a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom, 2-car garage, living room with flat screen TV with cable. It was like a smart TV with fucking YouTube and Netflix and shit like that embedded into it. 8-person dining room, kitchen with all, plates and pots and coffee maker and pans and silverware and everything you need, cups. Access to the garage from the inside. You had a laundry room. You had a back patio with a barbecue, and it was super, super nice, super dope. We were like more than satisfied. It exceeded our expectations. Really loved the place, so much so that we At least we say that we're going to go there next year again, but just to stay there, not to do this whole road trip thing. And it's pretty dope because you get, for example, you book the place and you pay for the place. So if you go with 2 people or if you go with 10 people, it's the same price. So you're not paying like per person. So I definitely recommend it to anybody that wants to check it out. It's called The Cottages at North Beach Plantation. And aside from being like a really like nice place, it was like a full-blown resort. Like in the next day we went to like the pool area, and it was, you know, we drove closer to it would have probably been like a 10-minute walk if we chose to walk, but we didn't know how far it was, so we drove to like the pool area, which is pretty much where the hotel like main entrance is. And then we just parked the car there, walked around like the pool area there, and then right past the pool area is the actual beach in Myrtle Beach. So it's super cool. You could go there and just spend like a vacation there at that place. And when you go outside of the hotel, like 5 minutes away, you have a Walmart, so you could buy like all the food and whatever that you want, which we did, and we barbecued and stuff while we were there. You also have like restaurants and like fast food joints, and yeah, it was a really dope place. So then leaving from there, it was so good that I wrote them a review, like 5-star review. I'm not big on like writing reviews, but if I really like something or if I really hate something, I got to do it. And they did, and they definitely deserved it. Then I went to, we went the next day before we left. We went to a local diner that was a few blocks away and had the bangingest breakfast that I've had in a really long time that I can remember. I don't want to say the bangingest breakfast ever because I'm like sucking this place's cock, no homo. But the whole like South Carolina Myrtle Beach experience was really dope, to the point that even the breakfast was like off the chain. Really, really good. Then we leave there and go to Florida. Unfortunately, our experience in Florida was probably the exact opposite of South Carolina in terms of the hotel that we stayed at. And it was a complete shitbox. I know we booked it for cheap. We wanted to stay, you know, close to Disney, but because the plans were to go to like Disney World and shit one of the days, and we staying in one of the Disney hotels is like $100 and something a night type of thing, so it was like too pricey. So I wanted to be close enough to it where we could just drive to it, and I found this place that was like 15 minutes away. And from the site and the reviews, I think it had like 2 to 3 stars, I want to say. But from the pictures on the site, it looked decent, and I was like, fuck it, you know. The price was really good price, so I'll give them that. But you get what you pay for, right? And we definitely did. This place was just fucking ghetto, like awful. It was like one of those like crackhead hooker motels where the door to the room opens up into the parking lot, and not for all the rooms, but for some of them. And not that any hotel that's like that is necessarily bad, but this one, it just like we opened up the door into the room, and I don't know if it was like the combination of coming from where we came from, which was like OD awesome, or in South Carolina, or if this place was just that bad, but like it just felt dirty. Like if we would have found bed bugs there, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. I was actually expecting them. It was decorated like it seemed like from a 1970s garage sale or something like that, and they hadn't changed anything ever since. So it had like lamps throughout the room, half of which didn't work. the fucking the iron, you filled it up with water and it just leaked right out from a different from the like opposite side. It was just horrible. The tiles in the bathroom were like different colors and shit, like, you know, like a couple tiles broke and they just fucking plastered a couple whatever tiles they found and put them there. The most innovative ghetto, just to bring it home here, the door in the bathroom of our room wouldn't close because it would bang up against the toilet, and they cut a square like out of the door, the shape of where it was banging onto the toilet, so that it wouldn't hit it and the door could fully close and open. So the door to the bathroom had like a little square chiseled out of the side of it, and it was just fucking ghetto. I don't know, there's no other fucking words for it. The front door had definitely a fucking bullet hole in it. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, because it had a peephole, right? Normal peephole, you know, size and location, center, mid, top, center of the door. Then towards the bottom, middle, left, there's another peephole. Like, it's not centered, it's not in the middle, it's like too low for a midget, just high enough for like a fucking 3-year-old. And to me, that was just a fucking bullet hole that they decided, instead of replacing the door, just fucking stick a fucking peephole in it. And it just felt dirty and dingy and horrible. So, I mean, it was to the point that we contemplated, you know, because I booked it through like a third party, one of those like Expedia, Hotwire like type sites, and all sales are final type of thing. We contemplated just eating the bill and just going to stay at a different place, but ultimately we didn't. And whatever, we toughed it out because it was just 4 days. But we did make a conscious decision of not spending any unnecessary time in that place. And, you know, we had like family and friends and stuff to visit. We also, you know, we knew we were going to Disney, and that was going to be like a whole day thing. So it worked out in the long run. One of the most memorable things that happened, though, was that not the first night, the second night that we were staying there, a fire alarm goes off. And it goes off at about I actually wrote down the time, 1:30-ish in the morning. It was like 1:20 something or 1:30 something. So 1:30 in the morning, this fire alarm goes off throughout the entire hotel, and almost the entire hotel. I would say like 80% of the hotel. And it goes on, and it's like this piercing, loud sound that I actually recorded for you guys, so that you guys could. I recorded it on my phone, so I'm gonna try to stream it in right now while I finish telling you guys a story about it. That's the sound. And this is how it sounded on the outside. And it was so piercingly loud that we literally had to walk outside. Not just us in our room. Almost everybody in the entire hotel had to, because it was so piercingly loud. The sad shit is that families, like with little babies and shit, they left the rooms and they had to go like sleep in their cars. You know, they had like little infants and little kids, and it was just fucking sad. And the shit went on. It wasn't like a half-hour thing. This shit went on like this from 1:30 in the morning to 3 something in the morning. Non-fucking stop. Like, you literally could not stay in the room because it was so piercingly loud. You hear that shit? So this was like the cherry on top of the hotel from hell. And thankfully, oh, mind you, by the way, I skipped over a part, which is when we walk into the rooms, instead of being like a single bed room, it was two beds, two queen size beds instead of like one king size bed, which is what I booked. But then they told me I didn't book that, and if I wanted to upgrade, quote unquote, they would have to charge me an extra $50. And it was like, what the fuck, you know? So like from the beginning, everything just was horrible. Thankfully though, my boy Raul had the idea to go speak to like the people in the front desk, and we did, to ask them if we could switch our room, because across the parking lot, the other group, there was a group of rooms that did not have the bell going off. And we went there, and they actually did move us. And I told them to move us to rooms, or I asked them to move us to rooms with a single bed instead of the double beds. And they did. They didn't charge me anything extra. And we got to those rooms, and they were a touch nicer, you know, the quote-unquote upgraded room. But it was a smoking room, so, you know, you could smell cigarettes and shit like that. But it was definitely nicer. You could still hear this fucking fire alarm, but it wasn't coming from it, you know, inside of these rooms. But it was just so fucking loud that you could still hear it from the opposite side. But at least we were in a room that we could actually, you know, close the door and be inside the room, even though we could hear the shit from the outside, but it wasn't coming from inside, which was the issue with all the other rooms. And in all fairness, they did say that they would refund everyone in the hotel for that night. But they, you know, they make you like jump through loops in order to get that refund. And but I did what I had to do, so, you know, and got the money back. I fucking had to call the agency that I booked it through, and then they had to call the hotel to verify what happened. The hotel actually clicked on them while I was on hold, and they came back and told me, and then they called them again. And then, you know, long story short, finally straightened everything out. Then I had to call back again after checking out, and confirmed the checkout and stuff like that. So it was this whole hoopla, whatever. But long story short, we spent as little time in there as possible. It was a shit place. Just like I shouted out the other one for being good, I'll shout out this one for being horrible. And definitely do not stay there. It's called Seralago, Seralago. If you guys are ever in Orlando, Florida, avoid this place unless you just want like a bed and a shitty place to stay at for pretty cheap. Then by all means. Then let's see. We went to a few different places while in Orlando. We went to this place called Disney Springs, which was pretty cool. It was like this big, like, outdoor mall type of thing with a bunch of, like, you know, Disney theme. Obviously, everything in Orlando seems to have like a Disney theme to it. And you know, you could buy a bunch of like Disney stuff, and you see a bunch of like Cinderellas and Buzz Lightyears and different, you know, Disney characters, and the Lego store and stuff like that. And you could sit down and have ice cream, and you're next to the water, and there's bars there, and it's a pretty cool place. There's a stage where people apparently play live music, and it was a cool place. We like pretty much spent an afternoon there walking around, seeing stuff, and it was pretty cool. Again, that's called Disney Springs. Then we went to Disney World, which was pretty dope, and huge. It was my first time there. I had never been there. We had a good time. It's obviously, you know, driven towards kids, but we did a few of the rides. I would say we went to the Magic Kingdom Park, which is like the main park where like that castle is that everybody always takes pictures with. And there's, I think, 4 different parks. We went to just this one, and made it through half of that one park, and we were there like from, I don't know, I want to say 2 to 3 in the afternoon to like 11 p.m. at night by the time we got out of there. And we only made it through like half the park and didn't even hit like every ride or anything like that. But Space Mountain was a dope ride. That was pretty cool. Comparable to like Six Flags type rides. The rest were like little kiddie rides. But we saw cool things like the Wheel of Progress, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. And it shows, it's like a pretty cool, it's the longest going stage show in the world, supposedly. And it just starts off with a guy talking, like from the 1940s, and in his living room, and you see like all the, like the ice box instead of the fridge and all the appliances, and he talks about, how times are then it fast forwards, and the stage, like the seats move around the stage, and it goes like round and round like a wheel. And then the next scene that you see is like the same guy in the 50s and in the 60s, and in like the 2000 somethings, when everything is like automated, and it shows like the transition of technology throughout time. And it was pretty cool. I like that. And the not puppets, but the people, because it's like machines and shit, they're like really creepily lifelike. Like his wife and kids and the dog and shit like that, like it's all like machines. It looks pretty dope and creepy. Creepy because it looks real. And that was pretty cool. There was also like we saw like a tribute to presidents, and it was like they had like those same type statues, but not statues, like machine people things, but like of all the presidents, and they would like talk, and JFK spoke, Obama spoke, and like a bunch, Lincoln gave his 20 years ago speech, and like stuff like that. And that was pretty cool to watch. You're like sitting like in a theater. That was one of the attractions. And it was dope. It was definitely cool to experience. The final show at the end was spectacular, for lack of a better fucking word. Or, at the risk of sounding cheesy. And it's cool because it gives like a show on the actual castle, like with different themes from like The Lion King and like fucking, what is that shit called? All the Disney movies, like Cinderella and stuff like that, and they play songs and music, and the kids are going crazy, and then the fireworks are going off at the same time, and it's like a fireworks show, and then the fucking Tinkerbell zip lines from the top of the fucking castle like across the park, and it's just pretty cool. It's like a really dope experience. We all enjoyed it, and definitely recommend you guys checking that shit out. Fucking expensive as fuck. It's like $110 a ticket to get into one park. And definitely if that's your thing, if you want to like go there yourself, or if you want to take your kids there or anything like that, definitely plan to do so in more than one day. Don't think that you can go there and do a whole park in a day, let alone all 4 of the parks. So plan accordingly. What else? Then, aside from spending time with family and friends and going to their houses and barbecue, having a barbecue there and stuff like that, we wound up going to the movies. Me and my girl like going to the movies, and we went to the movies one of the nights that we were there. And I found one, my boy told me about a theater similar to the one that we go to here, which is like the one with the recliners and shit that I like. I know I've mentioned in the past in the podcast. And it was perfect, we thought, until we sat down next to these fucking Puerto Ricans, no offense, that just wouldn't stop talking throughout the whole thing. And I mean like talking, like laughing and oh my god, and then not even talking, like reacting to the movie. Like that's one thing. Black people are supposedly known for speaking back and forth or talking at the movie or whatever. Shout out to Green Acres Theater. but they were just like having conversations amongst themselves, like, oh my, you remember when Thea took us to see that other movie that was similar to this one, and blah blah blah, and it was like, yo, shut the fuck up, like non-fucking stop, yo, throughout the whole shit. Thankfully we were watching Angry Birds, which was my girl's choice, but it's still fucking annoying. I hate that shit. Fuck, man. Don't go to the movies, people. If you're gonna speak, don't go to the fucking movies. What else? And that was pretty much it. That was our time in Orlando. It was cool, and we all enjoyed it, with the exception of the hotel. It was that hotel. It was a pretty successful and dope trip. Now, the cherry on top, which was really cool, was on our way back, we stopped in Savannah, and I looked up this place that I wanted to go to. I didn't think we were going to make it, and I read a bunch of reviews on it, and it's a place where like actors have gone to, like Alec Baldwin and Michael C. Hall that played Dexter, the guy that played Deadpool, Ryan Gosling, no, Ryan Reynolds, and Obama's been there, and it's called the Wilkes House, which I will link to in the episode notes, by the way, because this place was just fucking off the chain. And it is a place, soul food restaurant that is open only Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So 3 hours a day, Monday to Friday. You would think it's counterintuitive to not have a restaurant open during dinner and during weekends. But this restaurant literally has a 2-hour wait no matter when the fuck you go. We got there like at 10:15 in the morning, and it opens at 11. And there was a line probably of like maybe like 10 to 15 people. And we were like, all right, fuck it, let's go to the gas station, use the bathroom, come back, and then just get online, and we'll be straight. We did that. Took like another 15 minutes tops because the gas station was a few blocks away. And came back, and the line was down the block. We literally waited 2 hours before this place even opened to be seated. And it was absolutely worth the wait. I would have waited 3 hours for this shit. And it, it's first off, it's in the historic district of Georgia, which is fucking beautiful. I posted mad pictures on the website for you guys to check it out. Go to spuntoday.com/photography. Or on my Instagram at Spun Today. Like I told you guys I would, take some pictures and shit, and they're all posted there. And actually the YouTube version of this podcast, which will be, if you guys want to check it out on YouTube, on my YouTube page, find it through my website. I'll like post like a bunch of these pictures and stuff like that throughout the video of the podcast. And it was just beautiful, like greenery, weeping willow trees, cobblestone streets, and just a beautiful, quaint, antique looking area, little town. And the food was just fucking delicious. The way it works, it's small too inside. There's like 2 different dining rooms. Each one has about 4 tables of 10. So you walk in, whether you're a party of 2 or 4 of 10 or like whatever, and they just fill up tables of 10. So you wind up sitting with strangers, which was cool because everybody down south is like super friendly. And there was actually this couple in front of us that wound up sitting at a different table because they filled up a different table before we were able to get in. That was from Alabama. This elderly couple. And 2 couples, and they were telling us that they've been going there for like 17 or 24 years or some shit like that every year, and that the line's always the same, it doesn't matter when you come, and that it's well worth it. And it absolutely was. We wound up sitting at a table with a bunch of girls from New York that were there on a like bachelorette type of get-together type of thing, which was cool. And the way it works, just so that anybody that plans to visit knows, of course, check out the website, like I said, which I'll link to in the episode notes. But just to give you guys a first-hand account, they have a bunch of sides, like all the traditional soul food sides, like mac and cheese and mashed potatoes and gravy and grits and actually, did they have grits? They had to have had grits. I can't remember it though, but collard greens, green beans, cornbread, biscuits, sweet potato, yams and corn and just rice and green and black-eyed beans and just anything you could think of, any fucking side, soul food type side that you can think of, they had it. And the way it works is that all those sides are already on the table when you walk in, family style. They set up the table beforehand. You walk in, you just start eating right away. And then they bring out fried chicken. And then they bring out pulled pork. And then they bring out beef stew. And they just, refill anything that you eat. And it's just so much food, and everybody's like passing stuff around, like, oh, did you try this? Oh, you gotta try this. Oh, they had stuffing, which is fucking banging. Just fucking delicious. Everything was so good. And then as far as drinks, you have sweet tea on the table, or you can ask for water, and that's it. So you can't order anything. This is just how it is. Whatever sides they have for the day, which is when we went, it was all of those. And they say on the website they always have like some combination of that, like one day they might not have yams, but they have everything else. And obviously the fried chicken, which was fucking not greasy at all and delicious. It was like baked fried or something, it was like no grease, but it was fried and it was fucking good as fuck. The pulled pork, and then they bring you dessert afterwards. They bring you either banana pudding. That's what I got. Banana pudding was in the hood then. Drinking pink champagne. What's the other one? Butter pecan pie was the other dessert, and you get to choose which one you want, and it was just fucking delicious. And all of that is for $22 per person. And that's it. And the way it works, as tables leave, the people that are standing outside online, they bring them in after they set up the table for the next group, and so forth and so forth. And it's cash only, by the way. So definitely keep that in mind. I didn't see that mentioned on the website. And yeah, so prepare for that. So it's cash only. It's only $22 a head. So worth it. Definitely do it. If you go to Savannah, Georgia, you have to. It's one of the things that, from what we heard, people always say, ask you that, if you've been to Savannah, they always ask you, did you go to the Wilkes house? And I definitely recommend that. Couldn't recommend it highly enough. Then on the way back, that was pretty much the end of the trip. I was planning on doing a straight shot from there to New York, but along the way, we chose to stop in Virginia again, coincidentally, and we stayed for the night. I found like one of those like Motel 6 type places and stayed there, which again, this is an example of a like motel, hotel type of place that has the, that style of, doors that open up into the parking lot type of thing. And this one was great. They had free breakfast, they super clean rooms, and you felt comfortable, you felt good, you felt like you rented a fucking hotel. Not like the other shitbox that it just felt like a fucking. If you guys ever seen the episode of Louis where he's like doing some road gig and some guys like some crackhead is like knocking on the door and of the motel that he got booked in, that's how I felt being in the place in Florida. But this one in Virginia was nice, and it was good. Then we made it back to New York in one piece, and I am here, and I lived to tell you guys the story. That was my road trip. Now, on to the last few things that I told you guys I was going to mention, which was Jim Gaffigan's comedy specials. I've heard of Jim Gaffigan before, and he is a clean comic. For those of you that don't know, clean comic in the sense that he doesn't really curse a lot. He's labeled a quote unquote clean comic, and I've never been the type to prefer one type of comedy over another, whether it's like political comedy or a clean comic versus a dirty comic. I appreciate the craft a lot, how these guys are able to do what they do, and I can find gems in any of those styles, if that makes any sense. Just like I can be into a fucking rom-com movie just as much as into a fucking cheesy Avengers superhero flick, or as deeply as I could connect with a fucking Oscar-winning spotlight movie, or Contact, like I'm gonna wrap up the show with, for example. They all evoke emotion, and the fact that they evoke different emotions is like a secondary thing. I think the main thing is that it gets you to that emotional state, and in terms of comedy, it gets you to laugh, whether it's clean, whether it's dirty, whether it's political, whether it's hacky, whether it's whatever. The point is, it gets you to laugh. And Jim Gaffigan made me and my girl fucking laugh out loud countless times, and it's super funny. We saw the most recent one first, which was Mr. Universe, and I think that one's funnier than Beyond the Pale, which was a few years earlier. Both comedy specials are hilarious. Both of them were very good. I recommend watching both, but if you're gonna choose one, definitely for my taste at least, go with Mr. Universe, and you will not be disappointed. Super funny, and both specials are on Netflix. Also, another one that we saw was Todd Barry's Crowd Work, which was ballsy as fuck. I remember I went with my brother to see Todd Barry once, and I even forgot it was him until I saw him on Louis' show, and I just recognized him, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's the guy. And we saw him live once, which was cool. I barely remember it though, but it was cool to know that I went to it, but we saw he has a special on Netflix called Crowd Work, which is a few years old, but it was so ballsy because the whole thing was just no material. The entire special was no material, and it was just straight crowd work. And crowd work, for those of you that don't know, is when comics just fuck with the crowd. They talk to the crowd, what do you do, and just make funny shit based on the random stuff that you say, which is so ballsy and just a different level of comic that's able to do that type of shit. David Tell is another one that's good at that, from what I've seen. And who else? What's his fucking name? Russell Peters is good at it as well. But Todd Barry is just like on some Jedi shit, because he did the entire special just of that. And hats off to him. That's some crazy shit. All right, so the next thing is the whole transgender bathroom debate issue that's going on now in the country, which I don't know why this is such a big fucking issue, but here's my take on it for what it's worth. So Obama issued a directive on May 13th, 2016, stating that transgender students should be able to use the bathroom of their choosing in public schools. If they didn't, by they meaning the schools, they'll be in violation of Title IX, which prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation. Now, schools that do not comply face possible legal action and loss of federal funding. Now, to be clear, what a directive is, or specifically a presidential directive, also known as a presidential decision directive, are a form of an executive order issued by the president of the United States with the advice and analysis of the National Security Council, and it is not legally binding. So it's pretty much advice from the executive branch stating, you guys should do this, this, and that. It's not legally binding, but it is advice coming from the president. So it's like, yo, Dick, do this. But again, it's not legally binding, which is why 11 states, by the last time I checked, were suing the Obama administration. If that fucking makes any sense. Wasting fucking tax dollars to do so, I would imagine. Because they don't agree with their take on the situation. And FYI, 11 of those 11 states, I think 9 of them were in the South. No. Yeah, 9 of them were in the South. One of them was like Ohio or Wisconsin. No. Yeah, like Wisconsin or something. The other one was Maine. I don't know why I pointed that out, but whatever. Here's my take. Here's my solution on it. And I'll expand on a Michael Rappaport post where he put the solution to the problem is it was like on Instagram. It was like a picture of 2 bathrooms. One of them with a sign that says penis. One of them that has a sign that says vagina. That's it. I kind of agree with that, but in the sense of you have male, female, and then miscellaneous. All because we have to understand that there's no fear. There's no rational fear, in my opinion, of thinking that a transgender person or individual is going to do harm to like a little kid or something like that in a restroom. However, there is a very realistic fear, in my opinion, that creeps and sick pedophiles will pose as being a member of the opposite sex to get access to little kids and shit like that may happen to be in public bathrooms, and that's a serious concern, which is something that could happen now, but you're kind of opening the door to having that more of a possibility by allowing for this. So I say keep it male, female, and have an additional bathroom. Not even, and I'll explain the additional thing because you don't have to build fucking more bathrooms and shit because that's ridiculous. Retrofitting buildings and stuff like that with new bathrooms, it's a huge waste of resources. But keep it male, female, and have a designated bathroom for other. And other, I don't want to just say transgender because you're also, in doing so, I believe you're opening up a can of worms to an inevitable situation where you're going to start having, fluid gender people wanting their own bathrooms and a slew of other types of denomination of people that feel different ways and different things that will inevitably want or feel like they should have a non-gender designated bathroom. Which, by the way, and ironically, Disney is all for this shit. They had like signs for male, female, and transgender bathroom welcome or something like that throughout the park. But yeah, have a male, female, and another. Now, within public schools and places like this, you do not, I don't agree with fucking, building new bathrooms or some crazy shit like that. Do it by the demographics of the population within the school. So generally speaking, or within the hospital, like I've seen male, female, and handicap like bathrooms, like signs changing already. Do it based on the population, within the student body, for example. So you have, generally speaking, bathrooms are 50-50, right? Like 50% of the bathrooms are male, 50% of the bathrooms are females. What percentage of your student body identify with being transgenders or whatever other than male, female, and have those, have the bathrooms allotted accordingly. So let's say you have 10 bathrooms in the school, not 10, you probably have like 20 bathrooms in the school, 10 male, 10 female, let's say, and you have a small percentage, I would imagine, of transgender or gender neutral students. And so then you make it 9 male bathrooms, 9 female bathrooms, and 2 fucking tranny bathrooms in the fucking basement or something. You know what I mean? you guys know what I mean, though, right? So do it based on population. You don't have to build and new bathrooms and stuff like that, and it's fair that way. It's population driven, and I think it'll end a lot of the hoopla if you take that type of approach with it. Tell me what you guys think. Feel free to reach out to me at spuntoday@gmail.com. And last but certainly not least, I rewatched one of my favorite all-time movies, which is Contact with Jodie Foster, which was recently on the Nerdist podcast, and it was a pretty cool episode. Chris Hardwick, the host of the Nerdist podcast, admitted in the very beginning intro that it pretty much not slipped his mind, but he didn't ask her any questions about Contact, and he was remiss about it, I guess. And he pretty much said that the conversation was flowing so well that it didn't come up. But it's one of the movies that she's most known for, and it's based on a novel by Carl Sagan. And those of you that don't know, Carl Sagan was like an astronomer and an author, and just a science. He was like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of the 70s, basically. And Neil deGrasse Tyson actually has a really cool story of how he met Carl Sagan when he was like on a school trip or something like that. And he told Carl Sagan that he wanted to be a scientist, and Carl Sagan told him to follow his dream, and he wrote him like a little note and stuff like that. And Neil deGrasse Tyson became the fucking gem to society that he is today, in part due to Carl Sagan and the inspiration that he gained from him. And Carl Sagan was the original host of the show Cosmos that Neil deGrasse Tyson was remaking now. And he is actually, if you guys check out my book, Make Way for You, Tips for Getting Out of Your Own Way, the foreword that I put in the book is from a commencement speech that Carl Sagan gave at Cornell University back in 1994, and I think it's called Pale Blue Dot. If you just Google Pale Blue Dot, you'll see that piece, and you'll be able to read it. Or if you pick up my book, which is available at spuntoday.com/books or Amazon, and you can read it there as well. So definitely check that out. But yeah, Contact is one of my favorite movies. There was quotes that I stayed with me since the first time I saw it in the theater, which I remember seeing it with my brother and his best friend at the time. That was when that movie came out in 93, I want to say, somewhere in the 90s. I remember that was like the one of the only like childhood summers that I actually like remember. And I obviously, memory is fuzzy after all these years, but I remember that summer, my brother, his best friend, and I would go. We spent the whole summer. It felt like we must have done this like 30 times, but it was probably like twice or something. But I remember it being much more. But I remember going to the beach, Rockaway Beach, and then after that, going home, showering and changing, and then going to the movies. And then after the movies, going to 7-Eleven, getting Slurpees, and renting a movie and watching a movie that night. And I feel like we did that, like those 4 things in succession, like a million times. But the only movie that I actually remember seeing is Contact, because it was so made like so much of an impression on me, like even as like a little kid. And then rewatching it now as an adult, I see like remnants of even things that like I've said or trains of thoughts like within my own writing that I'm like, that's where that like idea sparked from, you know what I mean? Like the whole concept of being, insignificant, but at the same time, that's what makes us special. Like that whole like idea and like thought pattern comes from this movie, and it's just really dope. And there's a specific scene which I'll link to in the episode notes, but I'm going to play a little bit for you guys from it, which is resonates a lot, and I wanted to share it with you guys before I let you go. And here it is.
You're an interesting species. An interesting mix. You're capable of such beautiful dreams. And such horrible nightmares. You feel so lost. So cut off. So alone. Only you're not. See, in all our searching, the only thing we've found that makes the emptiness bearable is each other.
That was it. I think that's pretty fucking dope. You guys should rewind and listen to that again, and just see actually that entire scene if you guys don't want to like watch the movie, or if you haven't watched the movie, or if you even know the movie and just want to relive that scene, not just that little clip that I played for you guys, but there's like a 10-minute scene at the end, which is like the dope scene in the movie. I linked to it. It's on YouTube, and I linked to it in the episode notes, so definitely check that out. And that, my friends, is it. That is episode number 48, Random Rant of the Spun Today podcast. And just some quick housekeeping before I let you guys go. This episode and all episodes of the Spun Today podcast is sponsored by Amazon. And what you can do to support the podcast is go to my website, spuntoday.com, click on the affiliate links tab up on top, and you'll see an Amazon banner. When you click on that banner, it'll take you to amazon.com, where you could do all of your shopping like you normally do. And what this does is that Amazon gives me a kickback of a couple pennies on the dollar for everything that you spend. It does not increase your prices on anything at all. It's just a way to support the podcast financially without actually having to waste your own money. And that would be very helpful. I would also really appreciate it if you guys rate and review the podcast on iTunes and or Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's on Pocket Casts or Google Play or wherever it is. Please rate and review the podcast. It really helps with the podcast gaining visibility. I would also like you guys to check out all the pictures that I mentioned in this episode that from like the historic district in Georgia and some pictures of just the road trip in general, you'll find that spuntoday.com/photography, or my Instagram page at Spun Today. You can follow me on Twitter at Spun Today, and check out the Facebook fan page, which I just remembered I need to put those pictures on the Facebook fan page as well. So all those folks can check it out at facebook.com/Spun Today. And like I said, I'm going to cycle a bunch of the pictures and stuff like that through the YouTube version of this episode. I'll cycle the pictures through it. If you guys want to listen on there, you can, and see some cool pictures at the same time. Also, please check out my book, which, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, is called Make Way for You, Tips for Getting Out of Your Own Way. You can get some free excerpts and synopsis of the book at spuntoday.com/books, or check it out on Amazon. And if you would like a free PDF copy of the book, the entire book, not just a clip of it, not the first few chapters or anything like that, the entire book in PDF format, I will email it to you if you go to spuntoday.com/books. At the bottom of the page, just fill in your name and email address, and I'll shoot you over a copy after you confirm your email address. And lastly, the last thing that I'm going to push here on you guys is the Midday Monday Boost Letter. It's my newsletter, which goes out once a week on Mondays, Midday Mondays at noon. And it's just 5 things that resonated with me throughout the week, which is a photo of the week, a video of the week, which could be like a TED Talk or a rap battle or a cool video that I liked, a podcast of the week, a word of the week, and a quote of the week. So check that out. You can start receiving the very next one of those of the Midday Monday Boost Letter by going to spuntoday.com/newsletter, and just drop your email address in, and you'll be good to go. That's pretty much it, folks. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. And as always, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams.